I took the job because I needed money. That's really all there was to it. I didn't ask many questions. It came through a friend of a friend. Overnight security, light work, mostly sitting. The location made me hesitate at first. An old church out past the edge of town, long since shut down. No congregation, no active use. But the rate was better than anything else I could find at the time. The job was to watch the property during night hours. Lock the front gate at dusk, walk the main hall, and attached corridors once or twice per shift. Then stay near the front entrance until sunrise. I wasn't required to carry a weapon, just a flashlight and a phone in case anything went wrong. It was presented like a formality. Just watch for vandals or squatters. I showed up the first night expecting cold stone and cobwebs. The building was huge. Stained glass windows, most of them cracked or faded. Large front doors that creaked when you pulled them. Wooden floors that shifted under your steps. But it was clean. No graffiti, no trash, just quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your own breathing sound too loud. They had set up a folding chair and a small metal desk just inside the entryway. There was a landline phone, a notepad, and a set of keys. The interior lights were dim. They buzzed in a tired way, like they hadn't been used in a long time. I walked the building once, just to get my bearings. The nave stretched long and narrow, lined with dusty pews. At the far end, the altar sat beneath a raised dome. There were two side hallways. One led to what used to be a gathering room, maybe for Sunday school or storage. The other was blocked off with boards and plastic sheeting. A taped sign read, "Do not enter. Structural damage." That side creeped me out right away. I didn't even go near it. The air around that section felt colder, and the floor there had a slight downward tilt. The first few hours passed without much trouble. I sat at the desk, made notes every hour, stared at the blank pages of a worn Bible someone had left behind. I kept the main doors locked and my flashlight close. The silence was thick. No traffic sounds, no wildlife, not even whined through the cracks. Just the slow, constant hum of the building settling. I took a walk through the nave around 2 a.m. That was when I started to feel it. Like the walls were watching. It didn't come with a sound or a movement, just a change in the air. A slow, invisible pressure pushing inward, like I had walked into a space that didn't want me there. I kept my head down and walked back to the front. The next night was colder. The lights flickered once around 1 a.m. I checked the power box. Everything looked fine. I sat again at the desk, wrapped in my coat, and tried to read to pass the time. That was the first night I heard the sound. It came from the far end of the nave, somewhere near the altar. A faint dragging, like cloth moving across wood. I stood up, walked halfway down the aisle, flashlight in hand. The light caught the altar and nothing else. The sound stopped. I stood there for too long, waiting to hear it again, but there was nothing. Just that thick silence again. A silence that seemed to lean in the longer I stood in it. On the third night, I noticed the doors to the gathering room were open. I always left them shut. Inside, the room was mostly empty. A few old chairs, a broken table, a faint smell of mold in the corners. I checked the windows, all sealed. No sign of anyone entering, but the door had clearly been opened since I last saw it. The marks in the dust confirmed it. That was when I started checking things twice. I walked the building every hour. I left small items in doorways to see if they moved. Paper clips, pennies, bits of tape. Every night, at least one was gone. Not shifted. Gone. The lights cut out on the fourth night. No warning. One flicker. Then dark. I stood frozen at the desk. My flashlight was across the room, next to the locked main doors. I moved toward it slowly, using the green glow from the emergency exit sign as my guide. My hand found the flashlight. I turned it on, and something moved. Not fast, not loud, just a shape at the far end of the nave. a shadow not created by the beam of my light, something standing just beyond the edge of visibility. The shape turned, then slipped behind one of the columns. I didn't follow. I sat with the light on my lap until the sun came up. The power came back on by itself 20 minutes before my shift ended. The fifth night, I brought a second flashlight. I checked every door and window 3 times. I placed markings in the dust. I tied a string across the entrance to the blocked hallway. Then I sat and waited. The building was still, silent, but not empty. I could feel it now, like it was breathing. Slow, deep, like something was resting just beneath the floor, waiting for the night to pass again. At 3:17 a.m., the string was broken. The string had been tied tight between 2 door handles. It wasn't the kind of thread that snapped on its own. I had looped it 3 times and taped it down for good measure. When I found it split at the center, ends dangling like it had been cut clean, I didn't feel fear at first. I felt confirmation. Something in the church had moved past that hallway. Something knew how to avoid light. Something knew how to wait. I sat for a while at the desk with the flashlight pointed toward the corridor. I didn't plan to move. I thought I could just wait until sunrise, check the damage in daylight, report it, and be done. But the longer I sat there, the more I realized it wasn't going to let me rest. The sound returned, not from the hallway, from beneath the floor, like something brushing its hand across the underside of the boards. A deep, deliberate dragging that echoed through the wooden frame. The kind of sound you don't hear as much as feel. My legs went cold. The hair on my arms stood up. The flashlight flickered once. I tapped it, and it returned to full strength. The dragging stopped. I walked slowly to the edge of the boarded hallway. The plastic sheeting had been torn in one clean vertical line. The broken string curled like thread caught in a breeze. Behind the sheeting, the darkness felt thicker than the rest of the church. I stepped past the torn tape. The hallway was longer than I remembered. The stone walls on either side were uneven. The paint had peeled away in long curls. The floor dipped as I walked, every step creaking just slightly, like the boards weren't set on solid ground. My flashlight caught dust hanging motionless in the air. At the end of the corridor was the old priest's quarters. The door was cracked open. That door had been chained shut the first night. I had seen it myself. Rusted, sealed with an old iron loop. Now, the chain was gone. No marks, no signs of where it had fallen. Just a gap wide enough to slip through. I pushed the door open and entered. The room was small. A cot, a narrow table, a small bookshelf with warped spines. But there was something else. The far wall had been opened. Not broken, not knocked down, removed. A perfect arch carved directly into the stone. The air inside that opening was heavy. My light didn't pass through it. I stepped forward, but my foot hit something solid. I aimed the beam downward. The floor had dropped away. A staircase. Stone steps, uneven and old, spiraling into complete blackness. I didn't go down. Not that night. I stood there and listened. There was no sound from below. Only breath. Not mine. Not the building. Something else. Deep, measured. Something alive. I stepped back, closed the door, and returned to the front of the church. The lights had come back on. I left the building without waiting for the sun. I didn't clock out. I didn't record my shift. I sat in my car until the sky changed color, then drove home. They called me later that day, left a message asking why I had left early. No mention of anything out of place. No sign of the torn plastic. No chain missing. Nothing unusual in their report. I didn't call back. The next night, I didn't go. But I couldn't stop thinking about the staircase. I started dreaming about it. Always the same sequence. I would find myself standing at the top of the stone steps. The flashlight would flicker, and when it came back, I'd be halfway down. The walls would tighten, the air would go still, and I would hear something breathing in the dark just beyond the next curve. Always waiting. I thought about going back, just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. Maybe the mind fills in blank spaces. Maybe I built something out of dust and silence. But I knew that wasn't true. My memory was too clear. There was something beneath the church. Something not finished. Sometimes, late at night, I feel the same pressure in my house, the same stillness. The air doesn't move. The lights buzz differently. And once, while passing my hallway, I saw a shadow on the floor that didn't belong to me. I've checked the walls more than once. I've tapped them to listen. I haven't heard anything yet. But last night, I woke up and found a small pile of dust beside my bed. And I think the stairs are closer now.